Thank you. Representative Giménez.
I'll use yours. Yeah. Thank you. I always say that it's more important what you do than what you say. And so what's a clear indication of what this administration feels about China is what they asked for in defense spending. And so we're now close to $1 trillion in defense spending. And it's not because we're afraid of Russia or anything. The only thing that we're spending that much money for is to deter China. We're hearing also that next year the administration will be asking for $1.5 trillion in defense spending. Again, that's to deter our number one adversary, which is China. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get there. But to me, that's a very clear indication of what this administration wants to do, and a very clear signal to the Chinese that, hey, we see you, we see what you're doing, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that whatever it is that you want, you can't get. China wants to be the number one economic and military power by the year 2049. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure they never attain that. And so again, I know a lot of people here, you know, he said this, they said that. Again, I only care about what you do, because that's the clearest indication of what you want. And that's a very clear indication to me that this administration takes China very, very seriously, like we do. We take China very, very seriously. And so when the administration asks for $1.5 trillion, most of us here in this committee will say, okay, we understand. I'm not sure we're going to get there, okay, but we do understand. So one thing also my colleague said is that our policy towards China and Taiwan has been strategic ambiguity. I think if you look up the word ambiguity, means that you don't know what it is. Okay, so we want a one China, but we also want a separate Taiwan, but sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And so people want clarity, except that for decades, through many administrations, our China policy has been strategic ambiguity. And so that the president or any president makes ambiguous statements, it actually follows the strategic ambiguity policy of the United States. Actually, President Biden, when he was in office, he said that he would defend Taiwan. He said it like 6 times. He would defend Taiwan. It actually violates strategic ambiguity policy. But he said it, and then he walked it back after he said it. And so, again, you know, for those on the other side of the aisle, that's been our policy for a long time. We're going back to lawfare now, which is, I think, what this is all about. Mr. Koo, do you have a specific example of when the United States sided with the CCP over Taiwan, over a specific issue that you were talking about?
No, I don't think the United States under any administration has sided with Taiwan. I think in general, over the long course since 1971, the U.S. has just neglected to fight back. So in the UN, China has convinced all the administrative agencies in the UN that Taiwan should be treated as a province of China, and the successive administrations kind of turned a blind eye and didn't speak up and didn't exert pressure to push back on that. And that's what I'm worried about. It's not so much that we're going to cooperate, it's that we'll not notice what's going on, and that's what I'm mainly concerned about.
And you're saying that what's going on is far greater than what we're noticing?
Right. Well, I mean, we're noticing it, but we're not doing anything about it, right? And so because I think obviously there are more important things going on. We need to get defense spending up. We need to deter military invasion. But what I'm saying is that this is also important, and we should not, and this is much less costly. And there are things we can do to push back at this sort of level that can make a difference on the lawfare front. And a lot of it's just paying attention and calling it out.
Is it one of the things that the CCP is actively focused in on? I mean, when the CCP wants to dominate a certain sector, they really incentivize that sector. So is the CCP incentivizing lawfare, this legal sector, in order to undermine U.S. interests around the world?
Right. I mean, I think that this is I think that, to be honest, China cares a lot more about Taiwan than the United States does, and so they spend a lot more resources in their government thinking of different ways to promote their narrative, and the U.S. just doesn't have enough resources or attention span to push back. And so I think that's, with other countries that adopt a version of the one China policy, even countries that are U.S. allies adopt versions of the one China policy that are not what the U.S. would support. And the U.S. doesn't really push back on this or doesn't notice it. And that type of stuff, I think, can make a difference, all these statements at the UN. Frankly, it's more just we just don't pay enough attention. And that's where and China's motivated and effective.
Fair enough, and I yield back.